Hello, welcome back to my channel, Helki. Today I'm finally going to be doing a video for my deck collection. My whole deck collection, actually my whole tarot deck collection. I'm still yet to do a video on my oracle deck collection. They're kind of around the same size. I'm not a huge deck collector, but over the years I have gathered quite a few decks within my collection. I think I have around 21, I think, but we'll see. Let's go for it. So what I'm going to do is turn my camera around down onto my desk and we will go through all of the tarot decks that I have in my collection, and I will just talk briefly on them. I'm not gonna go on forever. I am gonna try and get this video all in one take once the camera is turned around. I'm not trying to make this a big edit for myself, so fingers crossed. I won't ramble too much. I won't have to cut it down and I can get this video out as soon as possible. I'm excited. It's fun to be finally looking at all my decks together, and yeah, I can't believe it's took me this long to do this video. So no further ado, let's get on with it. Okay, so I thought I would start this video off with the decks that I keep in tarot bags. I don't actually have that many tarot bags, just these two. So I keep two decks in them, and that's because both these decks came into those little tuck boxes. And yeah, this one, I love this little black pentagram bag, and in here is what I call my outside deck, my outdoor deck. I don't mind this one getting down in the dirt, in the mud and stuff. This is like my on-the-go kind of deck that I can just chuck in my bag. It's your average size. It's of course a Rider-Waite deck. It is the kind of yellowy edition one. I forget exactly what edition this is now, but it's like, you know, it's not a very well loved Rider-Waite deck because it's quite yellowy, but I just really love the cardstock. I find this deck really easy to work with. It shuffles beautifully. Personally, I don't find the colors like off-putting. I think I did it first, but I think I've just, as the years have gone on, this was my first ever Rider-Waite deck. It was actually my second ever tarot deck, I believe. It might have been my third. No, I'm pretty sure it was my second. And this is when I really sort of started to connect with the tarot. The deck I had before this, I just didn't connect that well. It was a pip deck. But this deck, I really love it. I feel like I've had a lot of past lives where I've worked with the Rider-Waite, so I do feel this connection with it. And speaking of Rider-Waite, we will now go on to my second deck. I even said to myself, like, I'm not going to start this video with my Rider-Waite decks because people don't care as much about them. A lot of people are sick of them. But Rider-Waite is my favorite system and my favorite deck to use. So this is my like giant Rider-Waite deck. So if you compare it to the normal size cards, yeah, they're much bigger. And I sort of bought these for learning because I'm able to see like a lot more detail in these big decks compared to the small decks. And there's a lot of symbolism in the Rider-Waite, and you're able to see everything in the background a lot clearer in this bigger version. And I don't use this deck too often. I'm more for spells and altar cards now. So Yeah, and I guess if I was to ever teach the tarot, I would probably use this again. Or if I was to, you know, dive back into a deep study. But I do feel like I've done a lot of studying with them already. But that is what I mainly used them for originally. But now I really use these cards for spells and, you know, like keeping up on my altar space when I want to be calling in a certain type of energy. But right now, this one, these are the backs as well, just the classic checkered back. But for now, these live in this little cute little tarot bag, which the drawstring is, oh, it does work. I thought it broke, but yeah. I don't take this one out I take this one out, obviously, because it's not easy to shuffle that big boy. Okay. So they are the only decks that I keep in tarot bags, so I just wanted to get that out the way. I'm doing this video in no particular order. I'm just going to sort of grab, I'm surrounded by my tarot decks right now, so I'm just sort of going to grab what I see. Yeah, so this next deck is one of my newest decks. It is the Everyday Witch. And I love this deck. Oh my God. So I got this for Christmas as requested. And I just love it so much. I've just clicked with it just as I imagined I would, so well. I'd possibly say it is my favourite deck that I have got for Christmas. I got three decks for Christmas. 2 tarot decks. And I love my other one, which I'll talk about next, which is the Green Witch Tarot. But this deck, I just, it feels so right, you know? I just love it. And again, I love the cardstock. I love the backs. I love the way it shuffles. The book is pretty good, pretty basic, but beautiful. Oh gosh, creak. I haven't looked too much into the book. So when I first started using it and I did my interview spread with it, I used the descriptions from the book, you know, just to try and get even more custom with it. I felt like some of the descriptions were a bit not what I would read from the card personally, but it doesn't take away at all about how much I really enjoy these images, how well I think the tarot is portrayed through these images. I love that there's witches and cats on all the decks, on all the cards, sorry. Please excuse me, I'm a bit out of it right now. It's because it's so cold in my house currently. And yeah, you know, when you're just so cold, you can't really focus on anything else. I've got so many layers on. Okay, the Everyday Witch, like, I love it. This is like up there with my favorite decks. So I haven't got an official like rating of my decks, but this one makes like the top 5. Like, that's how much I like it. The next deck will be the other deck that I got for Christmas. Weep. And this is the Green Witch Tarot. Another classic that a lot of us witches have already. So you probably have this deck or know of this deck. And another reason why I've wanted it for so long, I felt like with both this deck and the Everyday Tarot, it's like everyone has these decks and like I want them so much. Like, how has it taken me this long to get them? It was one of those things of it's a mass market deck and I know I can always get it. And also, like I said, I'm not a big deck collector. I don't often treat myself to decks. A lot of the decks that I have, I bought on a whim. I didn't plan it. I was just sort of at a metaphysical shop and I was like, oh, this deck's calling to me. I'm going to buy it with no research into it or anything like that. But these two decks, like I, done my research. I've seen them on a lot of my friends' channels and I've wanted them for a very long time. And that craving just got too much for me this year. And I put them on my Christmas list and I was so happy to see them come through. One of my favorite parts of this deck is the backs. I love the pentagram. I love the roses. It's just so witchy and beautiful. And if you know, I kind of see myself as a bit of a green witch. I've been really getting into the gardening lately. And the images are stunning with this. You can see the major arcana have got new names, have been renamed. So if you are a beginner and you don't sort of know the numbers of your major arcana just yet, then maybe this wouldn't be a good deck for you. But if you are a practicing witch, it's a great deck. I just love it. It's like a traditional yet cartoony kind of style. And I've really connected with it. And I love it. And just because I don't love it as much as the Everyday Witch, it doesn't mean I don't absolutely love it. It still would make my top 5 favorites of all my decks. So yeah, I really, really love this deck. No regrets. The book is actually really good. I'd probably rate the book for this more than I would the Everyday Witch book. Yeah, it's not in color or anything, but I do find from the cards that I've looked at in here, the meanings of them are really interesting, really gives me another perspective, or even sometimes a perspective that I already was feeling when I pulled the card. So yeah, it really resonates with me, this book, as well as the cards, which is an extra bonus. Okay, so the next deck that is calling to me right now is this one. I'm just sort of looking and grabbing here, guys. There's no order, as I said. So here I have the Archangel Power Tarot cards. I've had this deck for a very, very long time. God. This is possibly like the 4th tarot deck I ever got. Yeah, I think it is the 4th tarot deck I ever got. Like, I think one of my first ever videos I made on this channel, I had like hardly any decks and I did a my deck collection and this would have been in it. And I remember really disliking it at the time. I've had a turnaround. I've turned around on this. And this is why it is kind of worth holding on to your decks. Unless you're just, they can have a better home and you don't have the space to hold on to decks, because you can turn around with how you feel about them. And feel completely different about a deck like years later, like me with this deck. I still have things I don't like about the deck. Like, I don't like the cardstock really, and I don't like the backs of the decks. And I don't really like the borders, to be honest. So this is the Archangel Power Tarot. So it's going to be, angel inspired. So all the major arcanas have an angel connected to them. All the minor arcanas are like ruled by one big archangel. Like here, I don't know what that is, but this is like the orange color is the Gabriel suit, the blue color is the Michael suit, and then they have the green color, which is the Raphael suit. But I guess I would have to look in the book to see what like suit each angel represents. And what's good about this is you don't necessarily have to use the book, because you can have all the information you need just from this little paragraph plus the image. I remember I really didn't like these images when I first got this deck, and I don't know, like I've grown to love it, and I'm really glad I held on to it because it is a Dorian Virtue deck, and we know Dorian Virtue, even though, you know, she's disliked now since she left the community by a lot of people, her decks have been discontinued, which means they have actually gone up in value, you know, because you can no longer get them. And of course, this is also by Radley Valentine. Like any kind of Hay House angel deck is going to be very likely connected to Radley Valentine. He has released a lot of angel decks and books. He is the angel whisperer, right? So yeah, as you can see, I don't use this deck too much. I use it more like an oracle than I do a tarot, like where you can see I haven't even learnt which angel represents which suit. I don't use it that much, but I have definitely grown to like it, and I do use it more as an oracle, and I use it a lot more now than I used to. And like I said, not in tarot, more as an oracle. Okay. The next deck I have, sorry if some of my decks are dusty. Gosh, let's wipe that off. Yeah, I keep my decks like all over the house right now. The plan is to build a library in our house. When the library is built, I'm going to have like a whole section of the shelves dedicated to my decks where they can keep nice and pristine. But right now, they're kind of spread all over the place in my house, just gathering dust. And you know, unless I use them a lot and keep them on my reading table, yeah, obviously I don't use this deck that often, and that's no surprise to people who are regularly watching my videos. When I've mentioned this deck, I've said how this deck has come to me twice as gifts. It feels like I really am supposed to dive deep into this deck and work with this deck, but it basically is quite an intimidating deck for me. The reason being, it has its own system, so it's like not really the classic tarot system. It's a great deck for shadow work though, so I did put this in my shadow work video that's up in the iCard. If I remember to put it there or down on my channel, you can find my shadow work decks. Each card though has like a really in-depth description in the book. Can go on for, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pages for just one card there. The cards are pretty beautiful, very sort of out there, spacey alien vibe. I love the backs. Gold edges, and yeah, they've renamed the major arcana. Like I said, it's definitely got its own system going on here. You could use them as a tarot still, because obviously you still have the 22 major arcanas. and then you have all the minor arcanas, and they use the elemental system in this, so you could use it just as a tarot deck, you know, but it feels like its own beast, if you know what I mean. I feel like I'll always have a copy of this deck, just for the reason that it's come to me twice now. Yes, I like this deck, but like I said, I find it quite intimidating. It definitely doesn't make my top 10 favorites or anything like that. But it's definitely staying in the collection for sure. Dreams of Gaia. Okay, next is... I've had this deck for probably about a year now. This is the Celtic Dragon Tarot. Whoo, I really love this deck, to be honest. I've got it in the box right now because I'm not using it much right now. You'll sort of see what decks I have out of the boxes and what decks I have in the boxes to see sort of what decks are in use right now. I'm not sure why. I haven't been called to my dragon energy. My dragon guides have been very quiet lately, which is kind of sad, but that's okay. These things happen. I'm sure that I can reignite this connection, but I do love this deck. I don't feel like you have to have a strong connection with your dragon guides in order to use it. It's just a great tarot deck with really beautiful images and dragons in every image. So I'm sorry if it's getting a bit dark now, but hopefully you can still see these images. But I love this tarot deck. I think this tarot deck is possibly in my top 5. You know, squeezing in there if there's space. I really love this deck. It's great to shuffle. I really love the backs. And I really love the images. And I get really good readings from this deck. Yeah, I love it. And the guidebook's okay. It's not bad. It's quite brief, which I think is all you need sometimes. It's a very big guidebook for a very brief description, you know? Like the major arcanas, normally there's quite a lot written on a major arcana, but as you can see, it just has this sort of section. And like there, the 2 of Cups, quite brief, right? Not even a full page, like half a page there. So really not sure why the big book, but I think the size kind of goes with the, it's Llewellyn, I think, the publishing house. So is it the same size? It's bigger than the other Llewellyns. So the Green Witch and the Everyday Witch that I've shown you already are by the same publishing company, but there's probably like, this is probably like that much bigger than that box. So I kind of, maybe they used to always do their decks this size and they've reduced them a bit. But it is a huge box and it's unnecessary. That's my only critique of this deck. But other than that, I love the Celtic Dragon Tarot. Highly rate it. Okay, let's go for this one. This little guy. So we've gone from a really big box to a super tiny box. It's so tiny. This was my first ever tarot deck. My first ever tarot deck. This is my second copy of it because I always gripe that I lent this copy to a friend who never gave it back. So I really wanted like a copy of my first ever tarot deck. You know how much tarot means to me. It's such a huge part of my life now. And I just felt like you need to have a copy of your first ever tarot deck, right? Like there's something so magical about that. Even though I don't use this deck anymore, it's like, it's sentimental to me. It got me back on the path. It reconnected me with my roots as a witch, right? It's so cute. And it's just called the Complete Kit, like Tarot, the Complete Kit. So it's obviously a little kit that's just designed for like fun or beginners, not super serious. It's got this cute little book with very minimal descriptions of each cards. The cards are in like pip style. So it's in a little tuck box here. These are the cards that are just so tiny and cute. Look at that. Just fits right in the palm of your hand. I love the backs though. Oof, I do think these backs are so pretty. Oh my god. My favorite part of this deck is the really super pretty backs. And then it's a pip deck, all right? So yeah, it's not super interesting to me personally, but I still think it's cute. I definitely would say this, like, it's weird, it's for beginners, right? But I think beginners could really benefit from having like a lot going on in the images to help them with intuitively read the deck. Whereas I feel like this is very pip style, very minimalist, and you know, the Three of Cups, it's just like 3 cups. You're not going to get a lot from that as a beginner, so you'd definitely be relying on the book a lot. And so I don't think it's a great beginner deck, even though it's like built to be a beginner deck personally. I think this is definitely this is good for someone who knows their tarot, knows what they're doing. And it's probably why I quickly moved on to buying a Rider-Waite deck after I got this deck, because it got kind of, you know, I'm learning the tarot and I couldn't get a lot from it other than this tiny little guidebook. I felt like I actually had a reading with a psychic who told me I was going to become a very good tarot reader, and that you know, she wants me to come back and give her a tarot reading. She was like determined I was going to be so good. And I'm like, I literally have this deck. I was like, I don't know how to read tarot. I have this one little like toy deck. I don't really know what you mean. And then I got the Rider-Waite, and then I just felt this deep connection just surge alive within my veins. And yeah, the rest is history. It's crazy, right? So yeah, it's more of a sentimental deck, this for me, ornament now, than a deck that I use. Although like I do sometimes put it out, I just don't very often do. Okay. So next, I feel pulled to this one, and this is a deck that's been kept out of the box, so I've been using it quite a bit lately. I think everybody I know in TarotTube has a copy of this deck. It is the Lightseers Tarot. This is the you know, the mainstream edition, the mass-produced, that's what I was looking for, that word. It shuffles really great. I love the look of the indie deck, the original like first editions of this deck, but I am actually happy that I have the mass-produced edition, because I prefer like just the cardstock, how they shuffle really well, and that I don't have to be really precious about it because it's an expensive rare deck. And, you know, I won't spend too long on this deck because I think most of us have a copy of this deck and love it and, you know, rate it. I think the images are great. This deck really reminds me of my best friend, Stephanie. It's just really her vibe, you know. She's just such a... I don't know, it's hard to explain, but it's really her vibe. And when I showed it to her, she was like, oh my God, I just have to get it. And she got it. And when we used to work together at the restaurant, we would both have our copies of the Light Seers each. And it was just so much fun. And both reading a lot with this deck. So it has fond memories for me. I use it now and again. I mostly use it for reading for other people and not really so much for reading for myself. But I feel like it's got a real gentle energy, and I think it would definitely make like my top 10, top 15 decks. I do really rate it. I like it. Okay. So the next deck I feel pulled to here is just because it's right next to me. Let's just dust that off. We have the Lover's Path Tarot. It is out of the box. It's out of the box, but I will admit I don't use it that much. It is an odd size for a tarot deck, shape, should I say, more than size. You can see it's the same length as a normal tarot card, but it's just a bit wider. It reminds me a lot of an oracle deck. So basically it's sort of got legends from mythology and stuff like that on there, like this Queen of Arrows card. There's a picture of Venus. So I feel like the more you sort of know about these like legends, you have the characters Romeo and Juliet in this card, you know, you're gonna be able to pull from that as well. Let's get a bit closer. So yeah, I like this deck, but I don't actually use it that much. I've actually got it out the box for when I'm doing love readings for other people, and even then I don't use it that often for even love readings that I do. I'm just not super drawn to it, but I'm trying to push myself to work with it more. So this was a deck that I picked up when I did a random... How I buy a lot of my decks is I go to a metaphysical shop and I feel called to it. And this was one, it was behind the glass, so it was a fancy deck. I think often like the ones that were behind the glass are just a little bit rarer or harder to get hold of. And it wasn't exactly cheap at the time. It probably cost me around, I don't know, £30. You know, when you can get like a tarot deck these days for like £15. So for what it is, it was quite a pricey deck. I don't often see it around. The backs are cute though. Very cute. And you know, if you read for other people, you know, often the questions are based around love. So I definitely wanted to get more sort of love reading inspired decks at the time. And I think that's why I was really drawn to it. But I just, you know, I struggle a bit with this. It just doesn't meld very well with me currently, but I am trying to build up a connection with it, and that's why it's out the box, trying to like push myself to use it more. I just find it's like the energy for me, it feels flat for it, but I feel like some people this is just gonna really speak to them. And I'm definitely not ready to part ways with it because I feel like the connection could come. So definitely will continue to hold on to this deck, the Lover's Path. Okay, the next deck I'm going to go for is this deck. And I recently mentioned this in the live that I did about like my most used decks of 2022. and this was one of them. It is the Spirit Animal Tarot, and wow, like I freaking love this deck. Like when I bought it, I just thought, oh, I got it really cheap. When I got it, it was like on sale for like £8 or something ridiculous. Like what a steal. And I just thought, oh, it's just fun. Like don't think I have any other just all animal based. Oh no, I do. I have a horse deck. But other than my horse deck, I don't think I have any animal-based decks. I always kind of thought animal-based tarot decks are just not for me. Like, I like people in my decks. But how wrong was I? Because I love this deck because every card has a different animal on it. And I think that's what I just love so much about this deck, because you haven't got like animals trying to be people or anything. It's just like one type of animal representing the energy of that card, and I feel like the animals have been really well matched with the cards, you know, like the Two of Cups and dolphins, you know, and how dolphins have really deep, complex relationships. You know, we have the rabbit with the Moon card, and see what I mean? Like, that you can really add so much to the meaning of the card with the animal, you know, by taking just from what you know about that animal and adding that to what you know about the energy of the card. I really love the artwork, the way it's drawn, the style, but most of all just love the choice of animal to be matched with each card. And then the book is really great. So if your intuition isn't giving you much about the animal energy of the card, then the book is great too, because it really gives you a good, like, in-depth reason, meaning behind the animal and the card. You can call upon the book, but I personally love using my intuition with this deck. Yeah, and I feel very connected to like animals, animal guides. So for me, it's just perfect. Definitely will be in my top 10 favorites. Highly recommend it. Okay. Next, I have another Rider-Waite deck. This is my last Rider-Waite deck, I'm pretty sure. So don't worry. I'm pretty sure it is anyway. So this is the Radiant Wise Spirit. I just love the job they've done with this deck. The colors are just so beautiful to me. I feel like it's the best coloring job I've ever seen on the Rider-Waite. Just look at the moodiness of that Two of Swords. Like, there's so much more like popping out with these cards. They really pop compared to any other deck that I've seen. It's definitely, to me, the best colouring job ever done on the Rider-Waite. I love the Rider-Waite system. I love working with Rider-Waite cards. The only downfall of this deck for me is the cards are a bit thick for my liking, just a tad too thick. If you compare it to like the thickness I like here on the Crystal Visions, it's like, you know, just under. Look, the thickness is quite different there. It's a lot. The cards are a lot thicker than I personally like, but it doesn't actually get too in the way. I am able to shuffle them fine still. I am able to get good readings. Yeah. I don't like to bend these cards. They're like, I'm quite precious about these cards. I like to keep them nice so I don't ripple shuffle or anything with them. So yeah, that would definitely be in my top 10 too. So next, probably my favorite deck of all time, other than the Rider-Waite in general, but the Crystal Vision Tarot. Oh my gosh, let's dust that off a bit. I just love this deck. Not a fan of this tuck box it's in, impossible to keep nice. But man, oh, such a classic deck. Oh, I love it so much. This is like if I could put my energy into a deck, like if I said any deck like just held the energy of my soul and my spirit, it would be this deck. I just feel like, ugh, it's so perfect. I love the backs. I love how easy it is to shuffle. I love this kind of playing card stock. For me personally, they shuffle the best. I love them. Oh, that's the one extra card. I never normally like extra cards, but I love this extra card. I've spoke about this deck a lot on my channel. I've done a whole walkthrough of it as well. So I just love this deck. I won't go on, but you guys know I love it. It's got dragons. It's got fairies. There's a dragon. It's got angels, you know. It's the one. I just love this deck. Probably is my favorite deck. And yeah, I love working with it, and I work with it a lot since the day I got it. I've had it a couple of years now, and I have never you know, took a break from it really. I never put it down much. It's always a deck I feel called to, sorry. I love it. Crystal Vision's absolute classic within my collection. Next I have the Silver Witchcraft Tarot. I like this deck. My favorite thing about this deck is the backs. This is my altar deck, actually. I have a Mother Mary altar, and I feel like the blues really go, you know, naturally go with Mother Mary. Blue is her color, right? Blue and white. This is the deck I currently keep at my altar space, so I don't use it in readings, really. I just have it at my altar space when I feel called to pull a card. It's kind of a strange one, you know. It took me a while. Like, I always kind of appreciated its weirdness, how they're all in these kind of cult-like robes. They're just all constantly in these cult-like robes. But I'm kind of down for that. Like, that's a strange tower, right? Yeah, it's a bit odd, but I'm here for it. I like it. And yeah, this would definitely make like my top 15, top 20. Yeah, I love this deck. Okay, the next deck I'm going to talk about is the Sacerdote deck. And this is an indie deck, I believe. It's definitely not first edition or anything. I could be wrong about that. But yeah, it's a beautiful deck. I love the backs with the death moth on it. And yeah, the images are really interesting, really cool. Very kind of unique. I don't have another deck like it. But I do love this deck. I use it quite a bit. I like this deck as well for sort of shadowy readings, more deep diving, personal readings as well. I use it with myself a lot, and I use it with clients and other people. So I love the edges. I love this deck. It definitely makes my top 15, I would say. The next deck is not really a tarot deck. It's definitely not a tarot deck. It is a playing cards deck, which I got this year for Christmas. It is the Shakespeare playing cards, and I use it for tarot. It's the first time I've used a playing card deck for tarot. It's Shakespeare themed. It's really cute and small, kind of, I guess, normal playing card size, I guess. I don't know. I don't have any to compare it with. But yeah, I sort of briefly taught myself how to read this as a tarot deck. Obviously, you don't have the major arcana, but I really don't mind. I've been really loving using this deck as a tarot deck. It's so fun. I feel like I get kind of a different vibe than I would with a normal tarot card deck. And I really enjoy it. So far, I have anyway. It really kind of shakes up my practice a bit. And yeah, I'm glad I took the step for using playing cards. It's really fun to read with them. So let me know if you have any playing card decks that you use for tarot. This is mine. Was a surprise to get it as a gift. And yeah, I thought, well, I don't play cards really at all. So I'll try and use this deck as a tarot deck, and it worked out great. So I love it. It's so cute. Such a cute, fancy little playing card deck, and it makes a great tarot deck. Next up, I have this indie deck that I picked up from the artist on Etsy. This is the Riderless Tarot. Comes in a tuck box, kind of the average playing card vibe, like quality, average tarot card size. And I just love this. If you know me, you know I have two beautiful horses that I love dearly, and I love this. It's basically a classic Rider-Waite, you know, the Three of Wands, but in the place of the person you have a horse. I love it. It's just so freaking cute. And yeah, it's obviously all hand painted by the artist. And if you love horses and you love Rider-Waite, then yeah, it's a great deck. Okay, someone's chopping wood, so hopefully you can still hear me over that. That's typical. So yeah, I love this deck. It's so cute. It's definitely like, I don't use it a lot. I kind of never really used this deck. I used it when I first got it and haven't used it much since, which kind of surprises me. I probably should use it more. I got it more for a novelty thing, you know, something I wanted to have in my collection because I love Rider-Waite and I love horses. But I never feel like called to really use it in readings, if I'm honest. So maybe that will change. I'm never going to let go of that deck, so who knows. Next up, we have the Tarot Familiars. And this is in my original old video. I got this deck a very long time ago. I think it was like the 4th tarot deck I ever got. Or the 3rd, 4th or 3rd. I think it was the 3rd, actually. I do apologise for someone cutting wood in the background outside the window. So this deck, oh, what's going on here? Oh, I think I have all the, yeah, I have all the major arcanas maybe separated or something. I don't know what's going on here. Why half of the deck's facing the wrong way. Not a big fan of the backs because they're not reversible, but it's really cute. It's very kind of witchy. That's why I got the deck. I love the like witchy vibe of this, the fact that it's like got familiars in. It's obviously a pip deck as well, though. That's never been my favorite kind of deck to work with, so I really don't use this deck like at all, really. I went through a phase where I picked out all the major arcanas, and I used it as just a major deck when I just wanted to work with the major arcanas for some reason at the time. But if I'm honest, I keep it because I've had it for a very long time. It was one of my earliest decks that I got, but yeah, definitely not one of my favorite decks, and I don't use it very often. Okay. The next deck, we're almost through, guys. Can't believe it. Is the Angel Wisdom Tarot. This is one of my newer decks. I got this, God, I don't know, maybe less than a year ago or a year ago. I think I got it last year, actually, the start of last year. Of course, Radley Valentine, the angel man himself. Is this a Hay House deck? Yep, it is, of course. So yeah, I went for a phase. I got this and I got an Archangel Oracle deck at the same time. I was really in an angel phase. Like I felt the angel energy just calling to me so strong. And I got this deck at the time. I actually really love this deck. Aesthetically, it's not like my favorite. Like the backs are okay, they're pretty, but it's not like aesthetically my favorite. The artwork, you know, isn't my favorite, but for some reason it just works really well. I read with it really well, and then it also has these little descriptions on there, which is handy for beginners. So I feel like this is a great beginner deck, and especially if you feel a connection with the angel energy as well. I like how like the people are in sort of very modern everyday clothing, which is quite different for an angel deck. You know, angel decks are normally in, you know, stuff like this all the time. So yeah, it's got this like modern touch to it, which I quite appreciate. It's got that kind of rose petal feel to the deck as well. I really like this deck. I would say it probably makes my top 15. Yeah. I don't even have that many decks to be like, it could make the top 10, to be honest. So yeah, I love that deck. Okay, the next deck is the Ethereal Visions deck. This deck is a very well loved deck by a lot of people. It's a very beautiful deck. My favorite thing about this deck is actually the backs. I just love the backs with that beautiful lilac color and the sage green. It's just so beautiful. And then you have the like foil coating on it, or the foil details there. And it's very like Renaissance-y vibe, you know, it gives me anyway. It's kind of based off of Rider-Waite, but not completely. I think this is such a beautiful deck. I never felt deeply connected with it. I don't use it that often, but I can read with it pretty easy enough. It's just I don't feel this like instant deep connection with it. And yeah, I don't use it that much, but I do really love this deck, and it would definitely stay in my collection. It does just have a little white book with it, so I wouldn't say it's a great deck for beginners. But if you know your cards and you read intuitively, then you'll be fine with it. Okay, this is a different day, but I realized I'd forgot 2 decks that I have. My 2 French decks. So there's also a couple more decks after this, so worth sticking around. But I wanted to quickly add these in before the end of the video. So this deck I've done a walkthrough on before, and I was gifted this while I was like sort of traveling around the south of France looking for property, and one of the ladies I was staying with gifted me this deck when she heard that I read tarot. And this is what I believe to be sort of a classic Marseillais deck. So these are non-reversible, as you can see, like there's the Hermit. You know, like it's a classic French deck, pip style. I don't use it much, hence why I forgot it. It was actually on display in the other room, and I just literally was editing this video, and I was like, oh crap, my French deck. So I do like this deck a lot. I should probably try and use it a bit more, I think. It's got its own character, and yeah. I guess I don't use it much because pip decks are not my favorite type of decks, but it came into my hands for a reason, and I always feel like gifted decks, you should always pay particular attention to gifted decks, because they found their way to you magically, you know. Really magically in a way, because you probably wouldn't have seeked the deck out otherwise. This is a very old deck. It's actually old, you can tell, but it was like created a very long time ago. I wonder if it was created in 1860. I'm guessing. So it's a very old deck, has a lot of history bound into its energy, and obviously this would be a reprint since then, but still it was used when I got it. It wasn't a brand new deck, so I like that element to it too. The Death card, I do love this Death card. So yeah, if you're more interested in an in-depth walkthrough of this deck, you can check out my review that I did for it. And these are the backs. Okay, and then this deck I've never used as a tarot deck. I bought it, God, it's dusty. Like basically tarot is like a card game over here in France. It's not just a divination tool, and they actually like have tournaments and stuff for this tarot card game, which like one day I really want to do a video with Trey where we try and play the tarot game, and the official French tarot game. And this is like the game, the playing cards version of the tarot in France, and they sell these decks like everywhere in France. Just like in the UK and America, they sell playing cards in a lot of places. I got this from my local supermarket, from the toy section, which is quite funny. And it's very interesting, like version of the tarot. The images are not really at all like you are used to seeing, like most, like the major arcana particularly. So this is obviously not even shuffled, where I've never used it. I think these are the major arcanas. Yeah, so these are the major arcanas now. And you can just see these images are just not what you're used to seeing. Like, does that speak the Emperor to you? I don't know, maybe. It's very interesting. I would love to learn more about why they have these images. They seem to have like reversed, completely different scenes going on. Like there's two ladies having lunch and tea, and then there's farmers working out there. Like it's just very unique. And really not sure what it could mean. It resembles nothing like the Divination Tarot. But they have the same amount of cards, and then the minor arcana, other than the kings and queens obviously, etc. The court cards are all just your normal playing cards. So yeah, that is my two French decks. Now back to the original video. I think this is the last deck. Woo, we made it, guys. So the last deck is this Astara Tarot deck. It was created by 4 different artists, and that is kind of the reason I actually don't get along great with this deck. It's a really beautiful box. I love the color, I love the way the box is laid out. It's got a really beautiful, colorful book with short-ish descriptions, but enough. I feel like a beginner would do fine with this. I love the backs. The deck is like separated into 2. I just get half out, it doesn't really matter. I love the backs. I just love this green color with the bird skulls. But it's like some of the art I feel very connected to. I love it, and some is just not really my cup of tea. Say like this card, for example, or this card. It's not really a style is my go-to, I feel drawn to. But then some I really like. So I think it just feels a bit like all over the place, and that to me is because it's created by 4 different artists. So it's just too much going on. Like I love this depiction. So this artist, I feel like I really was drawn to this deck because of an image like this, for example, or like this. So, and then images like this I'm just not as connected with. So for that reason, I really don't use this deck very much. I don't really see it leaving my collection either. I just feel, I don't know, like I don't really want to let it go at the same time as I don't really use it. So I don't know what that is about. There's 2 more decks I wanted to show you quickly. They're actually my partner Trey's decks. The first one, well, I'll show you them both. He has this edition of the Riderway. I forget what it's called. I've literally forgot what it's called, but it is a great edition. I've only recently come across these decks. I didn't realize he had them here, and I probably will use them. I do a lot of readings for other people, so I might try giving it a go using these decks. I love the kind of muted colors of this Riderway. And then there's this deck, which I asked him for the name of. We don't have the box or anything, and he forgot the name of it, so you might know. This card is all a bit beaten up. This is the card I think he pulled when he first started dating me, and he felt like it looked a bit like me. So that's cute. So if you know the name of this deck, I'm sure you do, leave that in the comments below. But I do want to try using this deck. It is a beautiful deck, very interesting, very kind of like, I don't know, like 80s sci-fi vibes in a way. But yeah, very interesting. Glad I came across this, and I definitely will give it a go. See how I go with this. I haven't done any readings with it yet, but I thought it would be fun just to mention Trey's 2 little decks at the end. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know your thoughts on my deck collection, and hopefully I'll be getting more decks to add to my collection soon enough, and in the future I'll be doing another video. I will still be doing a video on my oracles. I probably have about the same amount of oracle decks as I do tarot, so I look forward to that. Hope you've enjoyed this, and if you've stayed to the end, then you're amazing and I love you so much, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.